Hello everyone. Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, An Evening When Thomas Stayed Very Close. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. The evening began the way most evenings do. Soft, unremarkable, and quietly tired. Outside the window, the sky slowly changed its color from pale blue to a gentle shade of grayish-orange, as if the day itself was stretching before going to sleep. Inside the house, the lights were warm but dim, not because I planned it that way, but because evenings have a natural tendency to slow everything down. Tama noticed this change before I did. Tama is not the kind of dog who announces his presence loudly. He doesn't bark much, doesn't jump excessively, and doesn't demand attention with dramatic gestures. Instead, he observes. He waits. And when the moment feels right, he appears, quietly, politely, as if asking permission to exist beside you. That evening, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling mindlessly on my phone, my thoughts drifting between unfinished work, unanswered messages, and the general heaviness that sometimes follows a long day. I didn't call Tama. I didn't even look at him at first. Yet, after a few minutes, I felt something warm touch my leg. Tama had come closer. He sat down beside me, not too close, not too far, just close enough for his shoulder to lightly brush against my knee. His tail rested neatly on the floor, and his ears twitched slightly at every sound in the room. The ticking clock, a distant motorbike outside, the soft hum of electricity. I glanced down at him. His eyes met mine for only a second before he looked away, pretending to be very interested in absolutely nothing. That was Tama's way. He didn't stare. He didn't beg. He simply stayed. As the minutes passed, I became aware of how still he was. Dogs often get restless in the evening, but Thomas seemed to understand that this was not an evening for excitement. This was an evening for presence. His breathing was slow and steady, rising and falling like a quiet rhythm that slowly pulled my own breath into sync. Without thinking, I put my phone down. I rested my hand gently on his head. Tama leaned into my palm just a little, as if to say, "Yes, this is good. This is enough." His fur was warm from the day, and there was something incredibly grounding about the simple act of touching him. No words, no expectations, just a shared moment. Outside, the world continued moving. Inside, time softened. That was when I realized this evening was different. Not because anything special was planned, but because Tama chose to be very close. As the night grew darker, the house took on a deeper sense of calm. The kind of calm that doesn't come from silence alone, but from understanding. Tama shifted slightly, adjusting his position so that his body leaned more fully against my leg. The contact was gentle, intentional, and deeply comforting. I turned on the television, not to watch anything in particular, but to fill the space with soft background noise. Tama's ears flicked toward the screen, then relaxed. He didn't care what was playing. What mattered was that we were together. At one point, I stood up to get a glass of water. Tama followed immediately, not rushing, not anxious, just walking behind me like a quiet shadow. When I stopped, he stopped. When I turned, he turned. There was no leash, no command, yet he stayed close, as if an invisible thread connected us. Back on the couch, Tama curled himself into a small, imperfect circle. His back rested against my thigh, his paws tucked neatly under his chest. Every now and then, he sighed, a long, exaggerated sigh that sounded like he was releasing all the worries of the day. I couldn't help but smile. I noticed things I usually overlooked. The way his whiskers twitched when he dreamed lightly. The subtle warmth spreading through my leg where he leaned. The quiet trust in his posture, completely relaxed, completely safe. At some point, I absent-mindedly scratched behind his ears. Tama responded by leaning even closer, his head tilting just enough to guide my hand to the exact spot he liked most. It felt like a conversation without words. "I'm here. I know. Stay?" In that moment, I realized how little Tama asked from me. He didn't want entertainment. He didn't want treats or toys or long walks. He wanted closeness. He wanted presence. He wanted me to simply be there. The outside world, with its noise and pressure, felt distant. The small living room became our entire universe, a place where time slowed, worries faded, and connection grew quietly in the space between two living beings sharing the same evening. When Tama finally rested his head against my leg, his eyes half closed, I felt something shift inside me. A sense of peace I hadn't actively searched for, but deeply needed. That night wasn't about doing more. It was about being closer. That evening with Tama taught me something simple yet powerful. Closeness doesn't require grand gestures. In our busy modern lives, we often believe love must be proven through actions, words, or achievements. But animals, especially dogs like Tama, remind us that presence alone can be enough. Tama didn't try to fix my problems. He didn't ask me to talk about my stress or explain my emotions. He simply stayed near me, offering silent companionship. And in doing so, he created a space where I could slow down, breathe, and reconnect with myself. In today's world, where we are constantly distracted by screens, deadlines, and endless information, we often forget the value of being truly present with our pets, with others, and even with ourselves. Thomas showed me that closeness is built in quiet moments, sitting side by side, sharing space, and choosing to stay. For anyone living with animals, the lesson is clear. Give them your time, not just your care. Listen to their quiet language. Respect their need for connection, not control. In return, they offer something deeply human, unconditional companionship. And beyond our relationship with animals, this lesson extends to our daily lives. Slow down. Be present. Stay close to what matters. Sometimes, the most meaningful evenings are the ones where nothing extraordinary happens, except the simple act of being together.